The moment John Kennedy saw his maid, Maria, slip out the back door with a hurried glance over her shoulder, a chill ran down his spine. It wasn't just the secrecy in her movements that unsettled him. It was the weight of the duffel bag slung over her shoulder, bulging with something he couldn't quite identify. A successful lawyer with a life of privilege, John had always seen Maria as a quiet, dependable presence in his sprawling Manhattan apartment. A woman who cleaned with precision and spoke little beyond polite greetings. But that evening, as the clock struck 7 p.m., on a rainy August night in 2025, something told him to follow her. What he discovered would unravel his assumptions, break his heart, and ultimately transform his entire existence. John grabbed his coat and trailed her at a safe distance, his polished loafers splashing through puddles as he navigated the bustling streets. Maria, a single mother in her early 30s with a warm smile that hid years of struggle, moved with purpose toward the subway. John had never asked about her life beyond work. Why would he? She was an employee, a fixture in his routine, not a confidant. Yet as he watched her board the downtown 6 train, her shoulders slumped with exhaustion, he felt a pang of guilt. He'd paid her well, hadn't he? But money, he realized, was only part of the story. The duffel bag intrigued him, its contents, a mystery that gnawed at his curiosity. The train rattled through the city, and John kept his eyes on Maria as she exited at a stop in the Bronx, a neighborhood far removed from his Upper East Side world. She walked briskly, her head down, until she reached a dilapidated apartment building. John hung back, peering through a cracked window as she entered a dimly lit room. Inside, he saw children, 3 of them, ranging from a toddler to a boy, of about 10, rushing to hug her. The duffel bag spilled open, revealing not stolen goods or secrets, but groceries, second-hand clothes, and a few worn toys. Maria's face, usually composed, broke into a tired but radiant smile as she distributed the items, her voice soft as she reassured them, "Mama's home. We'll be okay." John's chest tightened. This wasn't just a job for her, it was a lifeline. Over the next few weeks, John couldn't shake the image of Maria's sacrifice. He began to notice the small signs he'd missed, the faint circles under her eyes, the way she lingered to mend a tear in his curtains, the extra hours she worked without complaint. One evening, he confronted her gently, inviting her to sit, with a cup of tea. At first, she resisted, her pride a shield against his pity, but as the steam rose from their mugs, her story poured out. She'd fled an abusive marriage in the Dominican Republic, bringing her children to the U.S. with nothing but hope. Jobs were scarce, and the cost of living crushed her. She worked double shifts, sent money to a sick sister back home, and still struggled to keep her kids fed. "I don't want them to feel the hunger I did," she whispered, tears brimming. John was shaken. His life, filled with luxury and ambition, suddenly felt hollow. He'd spent years chasing cases and accolades, neglecting the human connections that mattered. Maria's resilience ignited something in him, a desire to help, not out of charity, but out of a newfound respect. He faced a challenge, though. How could he assist without offending her dignity? He proposed a plan, offering to sponsor her children's education through a local nonprofit he'd fund, ensuring she could reduce her hours. Maria hesitated, her independence clashing with the relief his offer promised. It took weeks of trust-building, conversations, late-night talks about their dreams and fears before she agreed. The journey wasn't smooth. John's law firm colleagues mocked his soft-hearted detour, and Maria faced skepticism from her community, who wondered if she'd sold out. Financially, John stretched his resources, dipping into savings to cover the nonprofit's startup costs. There were nights he doubted himself, wondering if he'd overstepped. But seeing Maria's son excel in school, her daughter laugh without, Worry and Maria herself stand taller with each passing month fueled his resolve. He even began volunteering at the nonprofit, learning Spanish to connect with the families they served. One rainy evening, a year later, John stood outside that same Bronx apartment, now brighter with fresh paint and laughter. Maria invited him in, her children presenting him with a handmade thank you card. As he read their scribbled words, "You saved us, Mr. Kennedy," tears welled in his eyes. He hadn't just changed their lives. They'd changed his. He'd found purpose beyond the courtroom, a family beyond blood. The experience taught him that true wealth lay in the courage to see others, to act with empathy, and to build bridges where walls once stood. As he left that night, John knew he'd never return to the man he'd been, because following Maria had led him to a life worth living.